This show is brought to you by IndyWrestling.us. Check out IWC, RWA, and more. Click the Fight TV link on WrestlingMayhemShow.com to support this show and watch pro wrestling, MMA, boxing, and so much more. And listeners like you, support this show at Patreon.com/Wrestling Mayhem Show.
Hungry as fuck, but I ain't starving yet. Chain for the pain, cocktail dollar set. Never said I was a gangster or thug, but I'm an animal. Peanut for the taste of the fly.
Live from Beachview neighborhood in Pittsburgh, PA, it's Mike Sorg at Sorgatron on the Twitter for the Indy Mayhem Show where we talk with indie wrestlers and people around indie wrestling. People involved, myself, a video producer with IndyWrestling.us with a lot of local groups here in the Pittsburgh area. We're going to have a fun conversation tonight. And, of course, please check out everything at WrestlingMayhemShow.com, where you can check out past episodes of the Indy Mayhem Show and everything else that's going on wrestling-related in our little podcast and video world on the internet. You can drop us a line at goodtimes@WrestlingMayhemShow.com or 412-206-WMS0, where you can let us know any questions about any announced guests coming up, anybody you think we should have on the show, any comments about shows we've had in the past, or anything else you want to tell us about indie wrestling promotions or wrestlers that you think we should check out so we can know about them and talk about them. And, of course, you can chat about all this stuff on our Wrestling Mayhem Show Facebook group. Subscribe to Indy Mayhem Show on iTunes, Stitcher, Spreaker, iHeartRadio. Please comment and subscribe on all of those platforms. And, of course, video versions on the Wrestling Mayhem Show YouTube and Facebook page, and live streams on the Facebook page that we announce as they get scheduled. Sometimes on the Tuesday nights with the Wrestling Mayhem Show, sometimes other times in the week. And you can become part of that, too, and ask questions and become part of the show that way. So this week we have a wonderful guest here. We had Billy Ruxpin, another first year IWC student, joining us, and we have another one this week with Katie Arquette joining us here in studio. How you doing, Katie?
Doing all right. How are you?
All right. I can't wait to get into a lot of stuff, including some matches you have coming up at this point, as of this recording, as well as a little bit of what Katie Arquette is doing this year. But first of all, we like to kind of break the ice a little bit. Oh, wait, Chad the Shad's with us too. Yeah. Sorry. And of course, producer Missy. Hi, hanging out after the Mayhem Show. Yep.
I'm around. I'm around.
But first we have a little bit of an icebreaker here to get to know you before we get into the rest of the show. So what's your first memory of professional wrestling?
My first memory of professional wrestling was when WWF was a thing, and I walked into my older sister's room while she was watching it when she wasn't allowed because it's violent. So I saw Kane walk out for the first time and fell madly in love. I don't know why.
With Kane.
With Kane.
Mask at the time, right?
Yes, mask, everything. I fell head over heels for Kane, and I did not stop asking my sister questions, and she is 8 years older than me, so she got annoyed very quickly and decided to kick me out of her room, and I have stopped watching wrestling until it turned into WWE.
So was she a big fan at the time?
Yeah.
So
she was. A mild fan. Like, she would watch it when it came on. Didn't follow it all the time, but she would watch it, and of course with closed doors, because my parents were like, no, you're not allowed to watch that. And then I would watch it and ask too many questions, and she's like, no, you're done. You
were gonna get her discovered at that point, right?
Oh yeah, I called her out for a lot of things. That was not one of them, because I like to see Kane and Stone Cold Steve Austin. Those are my two favorites. They're still my two favorites.
Awesome. So you're an Attitude Era
oh
generation.
Hell yeah. My sister bought me a poster, and it was right above my bed, so before I went to sleep I saw them. There was The Rock, I think Edge was on there, Chris Jericho, Kane, I think Val Venus was on there. There was a lot of people. I love it.
That's great. So how did you go from there? You got back into wrestling a little more later when you were allowed, I guess. It's probably a little calmer then too, so it was probably more allowable, right?
Yeah.
So, how did you go from? At what point did you say, I want to get in there and I want my hand at this?
Well, a friend of mine started training, and he wanted me to also train, and I said, no, I don't think I'd be able to. Not something I'd really want to do. But after I thought about it for a while, for as long as I can remember growing up, I've wanted to do something physical, either it be MMA or karate or a self-defense class, whatever. So I thought to myself, well, this is an opportunity to do so. And I am 19, so I'm technically an adult. So I said, I can do this. I can't be told not to. So I decided to get in the ring, and I thought my trial went pretty well, and I was pretty damn proud of myself, and I loved it ever since.
Awesome. And this was not with like IWC's training school. This is well before, right? Or this was with IWC's.
This was
okay.
with IWC.
Sorry, flipped it.
Yeah.
So how was that? Like, was it really kind of surprising when you got into it, or
What do you mean?
like as far as everything that goes into training for wrestling?
A little bit of both. Like I had no idea what to expect. I had no idea what to expect from a tryout. I'm thinking I'm gonna be like military, run around the facility 100 times and then be expected to do a bunch of cardio death drills, but no, that's not exactly what happened. A few cardio things, but the training process altogether was great. It was taken step by step, and the best explanation for every single thing we did in the ring. Anyone who can explain a simple front roll with every single detail, he did it perfectly. So, but everything was real simple, real easy. And then of course it had its challenges, but we all muscled through it, and it was great.
That's awesome. You mentioned like kind of coming up through the Attitude Era and everything. Was women's wrestling really inspirational at the time for you? I know there's a lot of ups and downs with the divas and everything like that. So,
well, whenever I was younger, there weren't a lot of like, you didn't see them. They were on there for 60 seconds or less, and I fell in love with Lita as well when she did her moonsault off the top rope. But when I got back into wrestling, the women's wrestling, it was. Granted, I was still a fan at the time, but now watching it and analyzing it, like it could be so much better. It really could. Like, they do such a great job, but watching it from a wrestler's perspective than a fan's perspective, you pinpoint every single thing. And don't get me wrong, I think women's wrestlers could have way more time like the men do. I mean, there's only 1 or 2 matches on either Raw or SmackDown every week, so we could have a little bit more time. But no, it really wasn't that influential for me, the women's wrestlers. The characters for sure, but overall what they didn't inspire me, especially the divas. Like the fact that they were even called divas aggravated me, and a stupid butterfly belt. What is that? No.
Tell me a little bit about the character Katie Arquette, and I think that I'm understanding where it's coming from with the character, because I've seen women's wrestling. There's a lot of just women that wrestle, and especially in the indies, right? And you came out with something a bit more when you debuted in February of this year, I believe, right?
Yes.
Tell me a little bit about how that kind of came to be.
Well, there was a lot of talk of what my character should be, but
and tell the people that the uninformed about what is Katie Arquette about.
Okay, well, Katie Arquette is this badass actress who, in Hollywood, she was always looked at as second best. She was always that stunt double because she had the athleticism and the body, and she could do all these things that were second best. Well, she got sick and tired of being second best and wanted to let all of her anger out somewhere where she was allowed to do so. So she just decided to go into a ring and kick every woman and man's ass that she could, and is going to make the most of it. So
awesome. So coming straight in with a chip on her shoulder and a reason to be there.
Oh, hell yeah. That's why she
awesome.
called out Britt Baker on her debut.
That's awesome. And so how did that kind of idea come across?
Well, I was a theater major in school, and I've always acted. I've always loved to be on stage, and the ring is actually my favorite stage. Fun fact. And it kind of just fell into place. We were playing with a a thespian character, and then it switched into a lesbian thespian. You can only imagine who could have came up with that idea.
I don't know on
Oh,
that class. No idea.
Mm-mm.
No.
So it turned into that, but then I thought, no, it goes right back to the butterfly belt and the divas. It just takes advantage of yes, sex sells, but women specifically. So I decided to change a little more and make her a little more savage and give her that opportunity to just beat people up and be strong, and of course very preppy and whatnot, but still she has a backbone.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So you're a few months into it so far, and we got to talk about, you got a pretty big match coming up here. I don't know too many people in their first year, within their first year, being put into a pretty high profile cage match as coming up. You're taking on, we gotta get the expression here. So I was surprised that you came out and challenged the new IWC Women's Champion, Lufisto. And if you don't know who Lufisto is, look her up. I'm sure there's a lot on YouTube, and it's interesting and intimidating. So,
To say the least, intimidating.
like, I didn't know some of the things. Like, apparently she won Cage of Death or something like that, and so yeah, she's kind of the real deal. So you have a cage match with her in a couple weeks.
I do. Next week,
Next
actually.
week, as of this recording, yes.
Next Saturday. I'm excited. I mean, a cage match it's a cage match. You can't really prepare for it other than the experience you've had over a certain number of months or years. And in my case, I have months for me working. But I'm excited. You can't plan a cage match like prepping, like I said, for it, but it's got to happen at some point, and you got to just be alert, be aware, and take everything that you've learned so far and make use of it and take advantage of it and do everything you can the best way that you can.
And say there's not like cage match day in training school, right?
No, there's not. It's one of those where, oh, you've never taken this? We're going to do it live in the ring. And you just got to just go with it.
That's awesome. And like I said, a pretty big, geez, I mean, it's one of the big, like 3 or 4 shows of the year for IWC too.
Yeah.
So, your first, again, being so early in, we talked about it. You were actually working with a lot of different promotions at this point too, like as far as Toledo,
Yes.
even, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, talk a little bit about that experience, like getting out there in different promotions, even outside of IWC.
It's exciting because a lot of times you hear, for men specifically, because there's not a lot of women in this business, you have to contact the promoters and send emails and send pictures and videos and whatnot. For me, I had everyone that I work for now contact me, other than IWC, because I trained there and whatnot, but everywhere else has contacted me, and I've sent everything in. And working with them, they're all different because there's different locker room types, such as family, or you're very on your own. But overall, the places that I've been brought into are very nice, very kind, and any typical wrestling locker room. But it's all a great experience because there's different rings, there's different people, there's different wrestling styles, and you kind of just have to morph yourself into it and get to know everyone the best you can and be respectful and do your damn best when you get out there.
It's awesome. That's awesome. I'm just checking real quick. We got a lot of people in the chat. Daniel, Duke, and a few others hanging out here. I think you answered for the most part, Lita being a inspiration of sorts, right?
Who?
Somebody was asking about Lita being an inspiration.
Oh, hell
So-
yeah.
So
Plus, she's really, really hot. So she was definitely an inspiration to me when she would do a moonsault too, and the thong just hangs out. Yeah.
there you go. Okay. Sorry, I'm clarifying the question right now. It said, ask if you can ask who your influences are, because Lita was mentioned earlier. Anybody else that kind of stuck out to you?
Well, like I said, Kane and Stone Cold. I liked Kane because he was a man of 0 to very little words, and his size and his aggression showed through, which I really liked. Stone Cold, he could say anything to anyone about anything, and he could get away with it. So 2 very different styles, and they both worked and got over tremendously. I really like The Rock. He was great on the mic. He had the body for it, and a lot of the things he did I enjoyed. Like I said, I really liked Lita because she went out there and did her thing, and Edge. I really liked Edge. His spear is fantastic.
We're getting a thumbs up from the number one Edge fan, Chad over here. I think we were just talking about how many Edge toys he or figures he has, right? So
It's the closest I will ever get to having my own action figure. So
that's awesome. That's awesome. All right. Well, hey, so what, this far in, few months, what is the best and worst thing about indie wrestling?
Ooh, tough one. I think the worst thing, maybe not the worst, but the first thing that I can think of is the locker rooms can be just like high school or middle school. They're definitely cliquey. You have certain people that you like to hang out with. There's always smack being talked about, and you have to take it with a grain of salt, whether it's true or not, and depending on how much of an adult you are, and decide who to listen to and who not to listen to, and just do things the way that you can. That's probably the worst part. The best part is the criticism and the feedback, because being so new, I love it. I love being told that sucked, and I love being told that was all right. Could have been better, but it's all right. Because it helps me grow, and it also helps them grow because they've gone from student to teacher.
Absolutely. We were having a good conversation earlier. We were talking about like breaking down wrestling and watching wrestling, and you talked about how like you would have a match and be told that was really good, but boom, 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 boom. This is wrong. This is wrong. This is wrong. Like, talk a little bit about that experience too.
It's bittersweet because watching it as a fan is like, oh wow, that was awesome, and then watching it as a professional, it's like, oh no, that was wrong. So being told like, I loved this, and I loved this, and it's like, now you need to fix this and this and this, and it's just a much longer list. But at the same time, it can be harsh depending on how it's delivered and who is saying it specifically, because if you're close to someone and they're telling you that was really bad, it rubs the wrong way. But at the same time, it's like, you know what? I'm going to do better. That's all I can do. I'm going to work on it. And every time I get in the ring, I'll just do better.
And you're in the first year, so
yeah,
I think
I have a good excuse to like, well, I'll do better.
That's for year 2. Yes.
That's for year 2. Like, damn it.
And I'm backtracking on some questions here. We have an interesting one from Daniel. How do you stay so beautiful and dangerous at the same time in the ring? And the blush question.
Proven. Well, I don't know. I can't answer that. That's not really a question I can answer. But thank you. I'm very flattered with that comment.
All right. Well, I'm waiting for this other question to come up. One of our other standards. What? You have the question. I don't know. It didn't pop up on my Facebook for some reason.
I also put it over into your G-chat.
Okay.
If you could be in the ring with any women's wrestler, past or present, who would it be?
Oh, really good question. Bailey. I'd be in the ring with Bailey. She seems like she'd be really fun to work with. Her selling is fantastic. Her execution it's really good. It's believable and it makes sense. Her psychology about it makes a lot of sense. I think I'd have a lot of fun going in with Bailey, especially with my character being the way that she is. Like, don't hug me, get off of me, don't touch me type of attitude. So definitely Bailey.
Awesome. We didn't mention you have a pretty interesting team up with Calvin Couture as well.
Yes.
It's been a lot of fun to watch over the past few months. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Well, it's been fun. It's been interesting.
And Calvin is scheduled to be on here in the next month as well.
Yes.
So.
Yes, he is. It's been a lot of fun, especially to be matched up with him. We train together, we've worked together, we've grown really close and have a good friendship together. So it works well because we have a good chemistry. So we know like what to say and how to like finish each other's sentences and whatnot, and like in the ring specifically. So it works. We work, and you don't get that very often, especially with people you train with. So.
Absolutely. Another question: how do you get everybody to boo you because you're so charismatic?
I say things that I wouldn't want said to me. There was one, just real quick, there was one promotion that I was at, and when a heel talks, everyone's booing, no one wants to listen, they want to interrupt and whatnot. Well, there were these 4 little girls sitting in the front row up in Erie, and they were like all for it, and they're like, boo, you suck, we hate you, this and that. And I was like, what is the one thing I could possibly say that would offend them so much and everyone else in this room? And it clicked. And I said, you 4 are the ugliest little girls I have ever seen. And everyone shut up real quick after they got done booing. It worked.
Nice.
And granted, that wasn't my idea. I did get that from someone, but they said one ugly little girl and they whispered it to her. I said it to 4 in front of everyone. So I'm not taking full credit. I'm taking partial credit for that.
That's awesome.
You took a concept and ran with it.
Yes, I took a concept and ran with it.
Absolutely. And those area crowds are, we've been to 1 or 2 shows up there, and they're pretty rowdy and fun.
Well,
So
I was thinking of the other show that we were at, when they were up north, IWC.
Clearfield or
Not
Rural
Clearfield,
Valley?
Rural Valley.
Okay.
That show was kind of interesting too, because kind of a similar situation. You had a lot of heat going in on that too, and the crowd didn't like you.
No, they did not at all.
So here's a question that I have. You're a very likable, approachable, nice person.
Oh.
So what's it like to be a completely different person in the ring?
Well, it's different. It can be challenging because thank you for what you said. I'd like to try to be a nice person and be nice to people. But I try to channel emotions and feelings towards other people into my character. So whenever I don't like something to the smallest effect, I heighten it and I make it times infinity and just run with it. And like I said, say things that I wouldn't want said to me and act the way that I wouldn't want someone to act towards me. So
Awesome. One last question. Who are you watching these days? Is there anything either indies or on TV that really you're paying attention to? It can be other wrestlers or promotions in general that kind of have your attention these days.
I started watching Lucha Underground a little bit because I like that style. I like how smooth and crisp and it just flows really, really well together. And I know DJ Z has come in and helped train and whatnot, and he's great. And the things that he's taught me along with others, it moves smoothly, and the way that he does it and executes it's really fun style to learn, and it's different. So you have technical and like not robotic but very specific, and then you have lucha where it's flowy and it's like chain. You don't need to speak about it, it just goes, it works. You don't need to call, well, we're going to do this next. No, it just, what's going to happen next.
That's awesome. I have an interesting. We can have a good conversation about the lucha style and everything. Because again, watching like him talking about like DJ Z talking about like how that's changed and it fit like his recent injury and everything like that. Mm-hmm. So it's been really interesting to hear about. So all right. On that note, where can people find you online?
People can find me online on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Mm-hmm. It's The Real Katie Arquette or The Katie Arquette. But Twitter, there's only one T because I ran out of character space. So, but that's where you can find me. And of course, you're a big part of. What's that? You got a question over? Yeah, we got one last question here from Chad. I have a question. Yeah. It's what's your favorite move that you do not perform? Moonsault. I want to learn so bad, but I haven't yet. And it looks really cool. I want to do it. I like to fly. That's awesome. There you go. Go with the lucha stuff, right? And hell yeah. And of course, you're a big part of the International Wrestling Cartel at IndyWrestling.us to see when you're coming up on a card, including Cage Fury coming up here very soon with Lufisto. But what other general places are you working that people can find you? I'm working in parts of Ohio, West Virginia, Erie, and Toledo
Awesome.
right now. So
there you go. Look for Katie Arquette on the card there. Thank you so much for joining us here on the Indy Mayhem Show and the Wrestling Mayhem Show as well.
yes, thank you so much for having me. I had a fun time.
Awesome. And thank you guys for joining us. Chad the Shad hanging out, producer Missy as well, and everybody in the chat room here. Again, please check out everything at WrestlingMayhemShow.com. Especially follow us on Facebook so you can see when these live streams are coming up here. Tuesday nights and other times during the week as we get these interviews. We're doing a lot of them, and a lot of them as much as possible in studio now that we have this awesome place to be doing it. Please support the show. Literally helping keep the lights on here with patreon.com/Wrestling Mayhem Show, or at least spread the love if you like these conversations. If you like the people on these conversations, the guests, don't worry about me. The guests is what I'm worried about. Get them out there. Please share the show with anybody that you think would be into it. And rate and comment on iTunes. So thank you so much to our guests. Thank you to everybody in the chat room. And until next time, please support Indy Wrestling.
You know how I act now. If you got a problem, come and see if I'm a back down. Act wild. Steady sipping Jack now.
This show is a member of the Sorgatron Media Podcast Network. Find out more at sorgatronmedia.com.